Once I've gone through that mental process of this is what I perceive as my workout, when I hit that part of my workout where I say I really would like to quit now, I'm fighting against myself because that mentally perceived workout that I was going to do, I'm saying this isn't the end of my workout because I've visualized that this is the end of my workout. So a lot of times I'll push through to that little extra bit of workout, which may be that 20%, of the 80-20 principle that I needed to be successful.
Welcome to this week's Escape Your Limits podcast. Today, Escape Fitness wraps up its exclusive podcast partnership with the FitExpo in LA to bring you Podcast Nation. One of our guests today competed as a bodybuilder and trained many people in the Hollywood film industry, corporate executives, and royal family members. Furthermore, we are joined by a fitness panel of experts from the industry to debate the future of the fitness industry. In this episode, we discuss some of the new training and recovery innovations that we should start to see in fitness facilities over the next few years, and a panel of experts with a combined 100 years of experience in the fitness sector share their views about where the industry is going. So please enjoy this week's episode with Mr. Brad Bose and the FitExpo Visionary Fitness Panel. FitExpo LA 2023. That's the year, isn't it? Is that where we are?
Yeah. We don't write checks anymore, so we don't have to worry about that.
And we've got the cream of the crop, and we've got the fitness industry panel, and we're going to be talking a little bit about what's going on in the health and fitness space. So I thought it would be good if you guys just give us a little bit of an overview of what you're all up to. I'll start with you on my right-hand side.
Perfect. So I'm Samantha Clayton. I'm the Vice President of Sports Performance and Fitness for a nutrition company, Herbalife Nutrition. And so I'm working with them really to kind of spread the voice of fitness globally. It's a big global company, so understanding that nutrition and exercise combined is the way to getting success with your health. And so my job is to kind of go around the world and convince people to move and do that fitness education. But prior to that, I'm Olympian, British Olympian, and so just really have transitioned in my career from the sports world, personal training, and now in the corporate space where I have a larger platform to kind of do what I love, which is inspire people to move their body and help them understand why. So loving fitness, been in 20 years now.
20?
Not going anywhere, so.
You must have started when you was about 6 or 7.
Oh, indeed. Looking young.
Dan Duran, I'm the Vice President of Content and Partnerships at ISSA, International Sports Sciences Association. Always a tough one to try to roll off your tongue. My role is really similar to Sam's, and that is to spread the word, spread the message, let the world know who ISSA is and what we're trying to accomplish and how we want to help people. So we want to make the world a healthier place, and we do that through certified personal trainers, specializations. We are now partnered or have purchased some new companies, so we're specializing in the aging population, running, mind, body. New yoga course just was released last week. So really trying to get the word out about, we're not just in one space, we're in a lot of spaces.
And I see you everywhere I go, so you definitely stand up to that statement.
Yeah, we're trying. Thank you.
Excellent.
Hey, so I'm Dan Metcalf. I will tell you that everything that we do training I've experienced somewhere along the line, from professional athletes to military training, to then performing, being a professional dancer on stage, ballet, jazz, tap, putting it all together, training professional athletes. I have 38 professional soccer players that I've trained from youth that are now playing pro. But my whole life changed when I had a brain injury, TBI, severe, and I had to learn to talk again. I had to learn this. So I was racing the Ironman and got hit in the head. And it changed the way I approach and the way I approach the people that I'm training, that it's now brain-centric, from the brain out, looking at the hippocampus, looking at the effect that the exercise has on the brain. The brain is made as a moving muscle, moving organ. And it's essential, for example, if someone has a stroke, the first sign, if they're in a coma, the first sign is movement. Something moves in the body that shows the brain's waking up. So now tapping into professional athletes, tapping into the senior generation, which is now my focus, how does the brain impact the body? And that's our focus in the way that we're changing the world, because it's the largest growing demographic of people, and it's important that we keep them healthy and moving.
Fantastic.
Cool. Very impressive. Hi there.
Hi.
I'm Petra Robinson, and I'll go kind of backwards. I am president and CEO of my own business consulting company. former senior vice president, and actually the first vice president of Zumba Fitness 20 years ago. And we now just have me doing my consulting role for them as the fitness industry consultant for them. And I oversee all the trade shows and events. And before that, vice president of AFA for 10 years, the competitor to ISSA.
A loving competitor.
I know, and I do a lot of business development, and which is really fun. So this conversation is really interesting to me as well, to see where you guys think the industry is moving into, and what paths, and what's going to be new and what's not going to be new. You know, what is going to be left on the wayside. So I'm super excited to be here with you guys, and you.
So my first question, so we're talking about where things are going, but maybe as a good starting point, where do you think we are? You know, you look at a lot of the research that's out there, and for quite a number of years, regardless of the country, we seem to have a portion of the population that working out and going to gyms and exercising, but there's a large portion that are not, and as a nation, we seem to be getting more and more unhealthy. How would you sort of, you know, give an overview of where we are today in terms of, you know, what we're all doing from our different areas as a health and wellness industry? And I'll throw that to anyone who wants to take that one on.
Well, I'm happy to jump in first. I look at it as 3 different generations now in fitness. You've got the older athlete or the older person that's now looking to survive. They're looking to increase their quality of life, which is a different mindset than the healthy workout. They're already into it. The endorphins are going, they're feeling the effects of working out, they're excited and they're motivated, either because they've got a goal, because they're goal orientated from their upbringing, and they've got a drive, or they like the way they look, right? And it feels good. Then you've got the 3rd generation, which now is the immediate impact. We want the gratification. We don't want to work for it. The endorphins are fake endorphins being created by video games and spending more time sitting down than they are getting up. And the only way to inspire them to move is to have natural endorphins by encouraging them to have fun rather than work out. Workout has never had that fun energy about it. It's always been work. Do I have to get up and go and train? Do I have to, even as an Olympian, right? It's some days you love it, but it's the endorphins that keep you going. I think the younger generation is going to be the hardest for us to affect because they don't want to put in the same effort as a generation, although obviously in everyone, there's still people that stand out, and we hope they can become the leaders.
Well, I see like Sony, for example, coming out with their, you know, experiential headsets, and where I see the younger people getting more involved in that because it's an experience, but it's technology, and they're moving, so they are getting exercise, but it's tech, and I think that's really going to resonate with them as they grow, right? But then on the personal side, group exercise, right? That's my world. What has made Zumba really successful, when you really think about it, is the fun factor and the community factor. And so it's still important for them to get together in person. And we saw during the pandemic that the virtual classes, yes, it kept them going, you know, and you're locked in your room, everything, but it's not the same. The community dwindled. And now that we're coming back to live, it's one of the programs, and there's others out there that have that sense of community and where you are one-on-one with the individual. And I think that's never going to go away, but we'll figure out, obviously, other ways to access that, I don't know, again, sense of community. How do we create that? Yeah. Other than playing war games on, you know.
I think we're at a really interesting time, I think, where we're at a space, like you said, the global trend of obesity, the global trend of overweight. The reality is people are not healthy. They have access to too much unhealthy food. And I think that governments now are at a point where they are starting to recognize that. So I think the fitness industry is about to have a big boom as that messaging from the top starts to come down of people have to exercise, people need to take care of their health. And I think the fitness industry used to be very individual. It's all about moving your body. You just have to look around today at the FitExpo. It's about holistic fitness. It's how you're sleeping, how do you feel, what products are you putting into your body to help with your overall health. So I kind of feel like we're in a really exciting time where we're going to need to innovate to motivate people. the newer generations, they don't have a huge attention span. So we have to keep them interested. And that's why you're seeing a lot of fusing of different styles of fitness, because we've got to get people in, but once they're in, we've got to keep them engaged to keep them coming back, because the only way to get results is consistency. So I'm excited about where we are in that I think the people are waking up, like being unhealthy is not the way to go. Our life expectancy is getting reduced. And I think the more that message filters from the top, the government level, then you have, speakers. And I think we're on a verge of huge change. Holistic wellness is the way to go, where fitness is just part of the big picture.
Introducing the next big thing in functional training, the Escape Barrow, a revolutionary training tool that combines a loaded farmer's carry with a sled push to develop hip, grip, and core strength. Developed in partnership with Pete Holman, inventor of the TRX Rip Trainer and Nautilus Glute Drive, the Escape Barrow can be rolled, pushed, dragged, and carried. The Escape Barrow packs a punch with an impressive load capacity of 440 pounds, and with a 2-stage galvanized paint covering process, it's also ideal for outdoor use. So head over to escapefitness.com/barrow. That's escapefitness.com/barrow to find out more. Enjoy the rest of this episode.
Dan, I was just a question for you from an education perspective, and I can't help thinking, I'm in the industry, I class myself as a professional, but I get confused with so much information, and I do my best to stay on top of it. Do you feel that when it gets through the professionals that you guys are responsible for training and then down to the consumer, that there's just so much of different conflicting information that in some cases they don't know where to start, and in some cases they can end up going down a path that'll actually probably do them more harm in the long term than good? What's your thoughts on that?
I think you make a great point, Matthew, and one of my mentors once said, there's no bad exercise. There's just a poorly prescribed exercise. And people just need to move, and another thing I learned from him is you watch somebody, you see them on videos of gym fails or whatever you call it, and you see somebody using a cable machine in a really weird way. And he actually changed the way I thought. And it was like, but is it wrong? But is it bad? What's he doing wrong? Is he going to hurt, he or she going to hurt themselves? If not, they're moving. It's different. Fine. So I think, first of all, we have to step back and say, movement is good. We need to move. But to your point, yes, we need to educate the professionals. There's multiple brands, there's multiple programs, but they're created by professionals. They're created by people who understand kinesiology and biomechanics and movement and energy systems. And it's created in a way to not do harm, but to do well. And I do believe that if we're following the wrong programs, plans, people on social media, et cetera, and poorly prescribing or doing something because somebody else does it, we can get ourselves into trouble. So it needs to be rooted in science. It needs to be from somebody who knew what they were doing, or a team of individuals who know what they're doing. They have the credentials, they have the education before you hang your hat on it and say, this is what I'm going to use. That's my belief.
Someone else have any comments on that?
I definitely do. I found myself becoming very frustrated with what I see online in the way that unqualified trainers are moving the population. I'm all about safety first, risk versus reward, doing the stepped approach, walk before you jump. And I feel like the traditional sense of how the body's supposed to move, how to protect the body, has been kind of left to the wayside. And it's how cool do I look, and people balancing on one leg and one hand when really... So it's a real balancing act. And I do, as a trainer, as somebody who, I'm a former athlete, so I really agree with this systematic style of training where, you build up your body, you build up the strength, one step at a time. And then, even you see people who are highly overweight and they have them jumping, and it's just not healthy for them. And so I feel that's why, I'm certified with ISSA, I'm certified with AFA, a lot of different training certifications that I've done over the years. I think we have to pull trainers back to getting the education so they understand how the body works, how you get results, and how you move, because there is a lot of injury happening from all this craziness that we see. So it's finding the balance between motivation and inspiration, but then keeping people safe. And I think that balance right now has been lost, and a lot of people are being put at risk with crazy training. That's my strong opinion.
And that's the thing, it's the whole YouTube fitness, right? And especially the younger generation. They don't even know what ISSA, NASM, ACSM, I call them the alphabet soups. They don't know, they don't know what the alphabet soups are. They really don't, and they don't care because they're getting likes, they're getting money, they're getting sponsors. And it's kind of scary out there. You know, I have 3 sons, and on YouTube, they're like, Mom, this guy's amazing. He's got 2 million. And I watch it, I'm like, oh man, what is he doing? So how do we get the young people, the next generation, because we're all getting long in the tooth, sorry, but we are. I know. But how do we get them? How do we embrace them? That is really key. And then my last comment too is the whole senior fitness, to your point. That's also my focus, is really focusing on the seniors, on the active older adults and the non-active, right? And so I think that's another area in the industry that's not being paid attention to yet. And I know you're working on that.
Oh yeah, we are.
I think sometimes that comes down to goal, well, it always comes down to goals. When you were training as an athlete, you had a direction you wanted to go to be successful in. And I think we've forgotten, because again, going back to the point of Instagram, TikTok, the success comes from how much numbers can I get, because then it's money, then I become a celebrity. And we do see that going on. But if kids don't have a goal, and I think that's us looking at them and saying, what would excite you? What really would you enjoy doing to stop doing this? And that's the thumbs going up and down as we sit on the sofa. Because if we try and get them to do what we want, we're going to fail. If we try and find out and tap into things that excite them, that then they feel that they're a celebrity and they can then showcase their success, that other people then go, I want to have that success. Now we start tapping into their psyche. Because again, it all comes from how you think in your brain to how you will act. I've never seen someone turn around and go, I feel like sitting down, but I'm going to get up and have a great workout, unless they're already predispositioned to think that because they've experienced it.
Do you think, to your comment, that there's, like, if for anyone who's in the business will obviously understand that you segment to different goals, different people, but do you think as an industry in general, we're kind of very much, well, this is fitness, it's if you went outside and asked like 50 people that you just pulled and said, well, what does the fitness industry mean for you? Do you feel that you'd probably get this sort of general view of, it's hard work, it's sweating, it's kind of, no pain, no gain, and that the sort of, the industry probably at the moment it's like one thing, as opposed it being, okay, there's a message to maybe, the people that are a little bit older, and that's very clear, and it's not, it's different to the younger kids, like my children. Obviously I want to be active and I don't want them playing on games. Do you feel that because it's quite a young industry that we're sort of, there's one message, and in some cases that message may generally tailor for the 10 to 20% of people that you do see going in gyms, that go in there all the time, and we do a great job at hitting those people that are fairly robust and not going to get injured. But the 80% that probably need a very different entry level, we're kind of not even really talking to them, but they get caught up in that, and then maybe they get injured and then drop out. What do you think about that?
Well, first of all, I love that you're nailing the numbers that seem to be very consistent right now, which is the other 80%. What are we doing with the 80%? When I started in the gym world of fitness, penetration was, members of a geography that were members of a gym was right around 16%. We're actually seeing that move just a little bit, but it's still shy of 20, and it's right in there. And again, a mentor of mine, and you hear me refer to that a lot because I'm not a very smart guy. Everything I know, I learned from somebody else, including how to talk. But one of my mentors would impress on me early on that only about 3 out of 10 people enjoy working out. They actually enjoy it or that want to do it. It's what about the other 7? We look at our obesity rate, which is out of control. It's gone up, I think, almost 10 points just since I started getting into the private world. And you're absolutely right. We need to find ways to connect with the folks that don't want to go into the 4 walls of a gym, because fitness is abs, fitness is biceps curls, preacher curls, squats. It's not, it's movement. And it's not even fitness. I don't even like that word. It's just health and wellness. We need to move more, drink more, sleep better, and eat a little better. And everything would change. But to your point, Sam, we're not messaging that to the people from the top down, government. I'm
Yeah.
going to throw it in there,
Yeah,
the G
just
word.
all
We're
that.
not messaging it to people.
Well, Ursa's
Small.
trying.
I
You
know.
Ursa's trying, and we're continuing to move and get the lobbies, going. But it's a uphill battle, as you guys know.
I think, Petra, you said it really well at the start about community. I think that's how we pull people in. Through our company, we do community fit camps, community walks. A lot of the time, people, you're right, they don't want to work out and they don't want to go to the gym, but people need an accountability partner. They want to be part of something. And I think when you look at the mega brands like a Zumba and a CrossFit, they're mega brands not necessarily because of what they do. It's because they bring together a community of like-minded people that have a reason now to come together. And a lot of the time, they're coming there to chat with their friend, to see their friend, to look cute, have a good time. And exercise is just a byproduct of the community coming together. And I think you touch on that a little bit as well. So I think that whole bringing people together as a community is going to be huge. More big brands like that getting out there and pulling people in. I mean, you can look at the other brands like the Nikes, the Reeboks, Lululemons. What are they focusing on? Community fitness. A lot of them are offering free community fitness. Why? Because it creates a really strong affinity to their brand. They're bringing people together, doing something healthy, and they're helping people make friends. And my big belief is if you surround yourself with greatness, you have a great chance to be great. If you surround yourself with fit people, you have a greater chance to be fit because you're going to be influenced. So I think that's what the younger generation, we're going to start to maybe try and influence that more, right?
So to get that though, and getting a little bit deeper into, again, the psyche of it, I got friends that are now in their 20s, and they'll meet a girl online and be able to text them and be able to talk with them, on the games that they get on, the VR games and stuff. Yeah. But I said, well, why don't you go meet her? I don't know what I'd say. They don't know how to engage. This is one side of it, right? Kids nowadays don't know how to engage on the social side because social is always with a barrier in between. So bringing people together and feeling comfortable in person, it has to start, right? It has to start. But how do we, again, get the kids to say, oh, I'm just happy sitting here. I can stop when I want. I can go, and they go through the night on this emotional high, which is fake, right, on what's really happening. On the other side, we've come out of COVID. We've got a lot of seniors that are scared to be in communities now. They've been taught for 3 years, and we know what we send in here is how we react, right? You want to be an athlete, you want to get the seniors going, you want to educate people in here, you're leading the education through the podcast that you do, but how do we get people to feel safe in person to change what they've now accepted as their lot? To be able to then go, I feel safe coming and sitting next to you, I feel safe exercising, breathing harder, because we've got this education from the government that don't be in this environment. And I think once people begin to feel safe and say, hey, this is actually good for me, I need to take this step, because if I don't, I'm only going to be on a downward path. How do we get those people to turn around and say, I trust you, that I'm going to be healthier doing this than isolating?
Yeah.
I was talking to someone a few months ago about a fitness program in America. I wasn't aware of this, but apparently when President Kennedy was in power, he created a fitness program. What do you know about it?
Yeah. I saw the same video you did.
Right.
Yes.
And that actually created quite a big change, didn't it? Do you know enough about it to kind of...
don't know enough about it to speak to it.
Does anyone...
But having grown up in America, I can tell you, at my age, things were very different in school.
Right.
We had testing, we had PE.
He had a fitness program.
We had all of
that.
that. You had to, yes.
Right. And it seemed to have spurred, according to this, and I can't remember exactly where I got it, so I may not have all my facts correct, but apparently that generation and what was done was really kind of influenced a lot of what the fitness industry's kind of become today, apparently. From aerobics to bodybuilding, some of these things came up in that period. And so whatever he did at that time, way before we had the sort of obesity issues and now that we have health issues we have now, seemed to make quite a big difference. And I suppose it's like, well, surely that's a relatively easy thing to do if the people that are in power wanted to do that, you would think. Why do you think kind of at that level it's not like, look, this is a major health crisis. I know in the UK, we're from there, the NHS is kind of like, is struggling to actually get through this, and you can imagine where we're going to be in 10 years if we don't do something about it. So prevention is probably better from a financial perspective, if nothing else. But why do you think that? Because I guess that's a good place for it to start. Would you not agree?
Are you referring to the President's Council on Physical Fitness?
I think so. It was
Because
just.
remember, I was that generation.
Okay.
And
well, maybe you are the expert on this one then.
and we had to. There were certain. It was programming, and
Yeah.
so there were certain sports that we all had to do during gym class, and you got awards too. We had patches and all kinds of cool stuff, and it got more and more difficult as you got older because obviously the assumption was you could do more, you could be more fit. But it was great. It actually going to school on Long Island in New York, we were lucky because we had fitness. What do you want to call it? Fitness programming, I guess, in the gyms.
There was programming, there was testing.
And so you were able to experience different sports at in different quarters. And so that really gave me that was the first little light bulb that went off in me going, I like this. This is really interesting. I like sports, I like the dancing, all of it. Track and field, and you had a taste of everything. It was like a taste of fitness.
Yeah, I think Michelle Obama did a beautiful job of trying to bring that back with the Let's Move campaign. I was a huge advocate of that and volunteered in local schools, trying to get the message through that kids need to move for so many minutes a day at school. And I think a lot of it's come down to educational funding. We went through a phase where math is more important than getting PE in, and I think now that we're moving towards where kids are more obese than ever before, they're not moving. I do feel like being strong advocates, in the media, and I do feel like that's going to come back. But you see, she really made a bold effort to get into schools all across the United States, and I do feel that you have to impact at grassroots with the kids. But I'm a parent. I've got 4 kids. I was blessed with a set of triplets, and so I do think a lot of what filters down to your children comes from the parents, and so that's where I focus a lot of my time in the community, working at the YMCA, doing free talks for parents to help them. A lot of people don't know what healthy is. They don't understand that their kids need to move. And I think, so you kind of got to hit it on both angles. You got to hit the parents so that they can convince the kids and lead by example themselves, but also have the schools take an active role in getting kids moving again. And, being a Brit as well, where at school, there was a lot of opportunity for exercise. We'd have pro athletes come into school, and we had the cricket programs, and I think there was a lot of opportunity. I think here in the States, unfortunately.
Well, it's not in the UK either now, though, is it?
Yeah, no, they've taken it away. They're trying to. I have a couple of Olympic friends at Linford and that crew that are trying to bring that back to get people moving again because we've lost our way, I think. But sports cost a lot of money. That's one thing. There's a lot of economic disparity, where kids can't afford to do formal sports anymore because sports has become such a money-making industry that even tiny tot sports now cost money. Tiny tot sports used to be free.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of people that can't afford to put their 5-year-old in these sports. And so there's been a real divide. But my hope is to stay positive and have people like us who are passionate about the space to bring that back.
But don't they, just on that, and I'm going a little bit all over the place, but there's a ton of research out there that kids that go into, and you may know a bit more about this, but putting kids through some form of activity before they do math or anything.
Yes.
Yeah, it's true.
Dr. John Rady.
Okay, and people with this ADHD, etc., it makes a massive impact. So, even just something like that is going to help kids with their grades. But it's still not in schools, is it?
No.
Yeah, and it's hard, right? Because we're all advocates for that. But I think that again, it comes down to the schools. That's what they think is important, and they're missing the mark.
Yeah.
If you don't have healthy bodies.
Money.
I created a device that's gone across America called 60 Up. It's a training system for seniors, and I'll take this down to the kids. The first thing we do before we start the program is say, what is your goal? The goal has to be greater than the effort it takes to achieve it, or you won't stick with it. So you've got to come up with the greatest goal that is going to be the reward. Going back to your point, you got different badges. People like rewards.
Yes.
The problem, everyone began to get an award. You go to a soccer tournament, everyone gets it whether you win or lose. So it doesn't actually feel as good. And someone cries, a parent complains, and so now we'll give you a badge just to keep you quiet.
Yeah.
So it doesn't have that feeling. So if we can go down to the kids and say, what would you like to do? The parents get the reward because we're paying a lot of money through the government to people in stimulus checks, just giving it to them to continue to be lazy, right? And I shouldn't say that from a critical point of view. They don't know what to do, a lot of people in there, right? But if we started rewarding families because the health now goes up, which means the cost goes down to the government, into the medical industry, and the kids now have things that they want to achieve, that they get a reward to feel good. Now you train the habit going in there. So again, I think that can start, as you're saying, at home, right? Talk to the parents, get the parents excited, and realize the number one thing when you address the problem has to be the emotion. So if you let a parent know you're going to shorten your kid's life, you're going to make their life tougher, they won't have as many friends, they're going to be bullied, they're going to be judged, would be maybe the best way to say it, in a negative way, compared to put the effort that you're putting in to help them become a full, healthy person, to now have options in life of where you want to go. And again, it's a psychological issue that we're dealing with that the body will follow.
But we're competing with TV, we're competing with commercials. When we talk about government, and I definitely don't want to go down some conspiracy theorist road or anything, or reality, depending on how you look at it, but there's a lot of money in people being unhealthy. There's a lot of money to be made in pharmaceuticals and the medical industry and so forth. There's not a lot of money to be made in healthy people. And I think that's something that sometimes we have to circle back to and just look at who are we competing against. You know, Ursula, I know, is doing a great job of trying to raise that awareness. But right now it's easy for us to say it's about the parents. You know, my kids are blessed and cursed because my wife and I, you know, work in the fitness world. You know, we think they're blessed, but like, for example, my son says, my friends and my daughter, when she was younger, our friends don't like to come over because we don't have any fun food to eat. You know, we don't have Cheetos, we don't have Lucky Charms. You know, you're gonna eat eggs and oatmeal and stuff for breakfast, and sorry, we're not buying it just because you're coming over. So it starts with parents, but there's a small population of us. What I say, you know, 3 out of 10 that really enjoy, you know, movement or structured exercise or have an understanding. We have to connect with that 80%.
And it's cheaper to eat the bad, like, you know, that bad stuff is so cheap for people that, you know, who probably don't have the money. It's expensive to eat well at the end of the day, generally, unless you know what you're doing, which most people don't have that education either, isn't it?
That's right.
Yeah.
I worked with Herbalife many years ago, and Mark used before he passed away and stuff. I'd go to his house and we'd sit and we'd talk about different programs, and with Susanna helped create programs. And there was an excitement behind it. And I think sometimes the best thing to do is create activities that are exciting, that people want to experience, to reject it, to find out they don't want to reject it. Right, well, I'll try it, but I don't really want to do it, to then realize. So if we can get communities, getting people together of all ages, and making it competitive with yourself instead of competitive and judgmental against somebody else, where you then get the reward, you feel good, you go home, you have the videos, you can sit down, you show them off, and that becomes social media growth, that becomes gain. Because again, if we can get kids active, we get parents active, you have the seniors becoming active again because they grew up in a different generation. And again, if we can bring the community together with excitement about a new direction and not wait for the government, because we know that if you wait for the government, it's never going to happen in our timeline. But if we can say, if you bring the community together and say, let's all get together and go and paint this person's house, you'll have way more fun and good energy than you would going out and protesting. Because at the end of the day, you change someone's life. If you can now turn around and say, hey, let's get a community, a neighborhood together, get all the kids at the field, we're going to have a 3-legged race with the mum and dad, and the kids have to judge who's going to be, they're going to run along, come on, mum, come on, dad, and suddenly they're moving. Now they look at the next level, and I think if companies like Herbalife, ISSA, in here, Zumba, getting mum and, father and daughter programs and stuff,
really focused on it.
That'd be brilliant.
You're right, with the excitement. I've been traveling now for Herbalife. I've been with them 13 years now, coming up on 13 years, and challenges, fit challenges. I'm pulling 4,000 or 5,000 people to a single workout to bring people together. Typically, it's connected to charity, so we'll have people come to the workout to benefit a local foundation that helps kids. And so like you said, it's having that draw to come in to build the excitement. We did a world record workout one year, and in one day had hundreds of thousands of people doing the same workout. But again, it had a cause, it was for a purpose greater than the individual. And I think maybe you're right with that. The key is greater than you. other people.
And then the plan after that is once you've had the activity and the event with so many people, where does it go from there? So now if you have people that want to be ambassadors within that then build within their own street, within their own neighborhood, within their own city, with a location that the city now supports. Say, hey, you can have our field on Saturday mornings from 8 o'clock till 10 o'clock for all the people to come in. We're not going to charge you for it because it's doing this for our community. Now maybe there's a chance to build on what you've actually created, and then it falls a little flat because we don't have the right ambassadors in place.
The other thing, sorry.
Go on.
Well, the other thing that's different, talking, because I was part of the education world, and when I actually helped write the Zumba basic training with Beto in Spanglish, and in Spanglish, yes. And from AFA, we always had practical and theoretical, and then testing, right? I wanted to incorporate a test into the training, and the Albertos, they're all named Alberto, so it was very easy to remember, They said, no. The moment that you force the people to have a test, you're not going to get people to come to take the training. You're going to scare them away. And I was just, it was a tough decision, right? I mean, for fitness,
Yeah.
it was the best decision we ever made, because even today there's a training in Spanish, yesterday in English for the Zumba Basic 1. There are no prerequisites. Anybody, you could all go. She would be amazing, but the three of you, yes. hey, I know. But there's no gatekeeper into the funnel. Mm-hmm. And what happens is they practice, they get involved, they get sucked into that great community, because it is a wonderful community. The same thing with Les Mills too. I mean, there's a lot of really good, but they're there, and then they start realizing, I like this. And the testimonials that we have as far as the people losing weight, getting healthy, is tremendous. And so that's another thing that we should think about, is how difficult are we making it for the younger, and not even younger, for anybody to get in, to take that first step to becoming a fitness professional. I think sometimes we make it seem so lofty that they're like, I can't do that, right?
Well, I guess one thing I do know is, like, if any industry or group of people are going to do this, the people in the fitness industry are passionate, they're motivated, they're persistent. So my guess is that we've probably got the right people to do it. It's just a case of keeping on, and I'm sure we'll probably get there in the end. So thank you very much for your time, guys. It's been a very interesting conversation. So
loved it.
Pleasure.
Thank you. It was great.
Thank you.
Brad Bose, thank you
Yes.
for joining us today. I'm interested in our conversation because I know you're on the cutting edge of what's going on in the fitness space. But I thought for the benefit of the listeners and viewers, tell us a little bit about your background.
Okay, well, I do have a kind of an interesting background. I started out born and raised in Chicago, opened Better Bodies in Chicago 100 years ago. Kind of was on the cutting edge of with all the first personal trainers that ever came out. Opened basically some of the first personal training gyms that were around. Moved out to California. After I got to California, moved to Stockholm, Sweden, and started personal training school in Sweden.
Why Sweden? Was that a woman or?
No, it was. I got hired as a strength and conditioning coach for a professional American football team, kind of a subsidiary to NFL Europe. And so I started strength and conditioning in Stockholm, and we happened to, the same team that I coached the year before didn't make the playoffs. That year they won the European Super Bowl. And the head coach and the owner of the team was interviewed and said, what was the difference? And they said, we had the same coaching staff, the same team, but our strength and conditioning coach was Brad Bose, and he made the difference. And I got approached by a guy by the name of Uwe Ritter, and Uwe owned Fitness Magazine in Sweden, and he said, my life's dream has always been to open a personal training school in Europe. So I was only supposed to be over there for a season training strength and conditioning, and I ended up opening Personal Training School Europe and spending 10 years in Stockholm.
So what was the difference that made the difference in this situation? Like, was it sort of personal experience, some education that you got? What was the, they obviously put that down to the strength and conditioning coach, but you must have been doing something different than others.
I don't know about that. I think I'm old school, but I think one of the things that I've really worked with is a lot of mind-body and a lot of positive and affirmation combined with kind of a Pavlovian punishment style. And it's something you learn as an athlete, I think, is that you know, that we all want the positive affirmations, but you also have to be able to correct. And so you know, you get hard when you get hard. Like I said, I was in pretty good shape when I was coaching there. So if I got mad at my players when they were conditioning, like doing 40-meter sprints or something, I would always be dressed in workout gear, and I said, anybody that finishes after me is going to stay all day, because and I'd go out and do it. And it's that kind of attitude of, you know, you get that inner self going, you know what's inside you. And I think that really helped me a lot along the way. I also think it helped because as you know, styles in Europe are different than styles in America. So while I brought over an education to them, I got an education because I got to learn the more calm, serene, cerebral effects that the Swedish people are. And so they really kind of made my foundation more complete.
When you say calm and cerebral, do you mean like balancing that sort of all-go extreme side of things with the more the recovery and the opposite side, which I guess is starting to be talked about now, a lot more in the fitness area?
I think the whole Swedish population is that way. If you think about it, it's you know, if you think about the sports that are really popular in Sweden, basketball, of course, but like hockey, what Europeans call football and we call soccer, and you know, those kind of sports that require more finesse. For example, if you take a hockey player in Sweden, he has to be re-educated in the NFL to be violent, because he's got a bigger arena and he's got more skill and agility and speed, and he's not as violent. So you learn that through line, and it gives you a much broader perspective on how things really work.
How would you describe your view on general health, fitness and wellness now than probably when you came into the space? Like, what would be a few sort of easily definable changes that you've evolved in the way that you'll look at the business that you're in?
Well, I think the most common one, well, actually I'll say it this way to back up. The old days, the Atlas days you had, then you had what I would call the Arnold days, which was all bodybuilding moves. And then it started progressing into what it is today. And I think where we're going or where we're heading now is into the more cerebral phase of fitness. Open to old school. If you talk to a lot of the really successful trainers out there, the Aaron Williamsons, the Kobe Klotz, and all these people, they say, I'm old school. But if you watch what they're doing, they've integrated old school with a lot of movement and function. And then I had a panel yesterday where Kobe said, or Corey said, I'm gonna focus more on recovery because I've been go, go, go. And for the first time, I'm starting to get injured and I'm starting to realize the importance of recovery. I take that a step further. I was the same guy, go, go, go. And I started learning the importance of the mental part of training, the mind-body connection, and you know, a lot of times when we talk about mind-body, we say yoga or something, but there's a real mind-body experience when you walk into a gym. One of the things we were talking about is on those days I don't feel like training, when I get on the treadmill, I do a mental visualization of my workout. Like, these are the things I'm going to do in this workout. These are the things I have planned. Now, I don't really feel good today, so I really don't want to do these things. But once I've gone through that mental process of this is what I perceive as my workout, when I hit that part of my workout where I say I really would like to quit now, I'm fighting against myself because that mentally perceived workout that I was going to do, I'm saying this isn't the end of my workout because I've visualized that this is the end of my workout. So a lot of times I'll push through to that little extra bit of workout, which may be that 20%, you know, of the 80-20 principle that I needed to be successful. So there's a lot of that going on right now.
How do you sort of build that into your business then? Is that a structured process that you have before someone starts, where it's like, okay, I'm just going to talk you through a few things? Is it more like a kind of psychology session, or is it something that you're doing as you're going through the workout?
I think it's more organic.
Okay.
I think all good trainers plan their workouts. But I think one of the things you have to do, and again on the mental side, we use things like neurofeedback and stuff like that off training sessions to work on improving the brain, taking stress out of the body, balancing the brain. It has nothing to do with strength, and it has everything to do with strength. Because when your
What's
brain
some
is...
examples of that?
Well, so to give you a little background, neurofeedback is used a lot with vets and stuff who have PTSD and stuff. So if you have PTSD and you're under stress, the one thing that really triggers the stress is talking about the stress because you relive it. So neurofeedback gives you the advantage of not having to relive that stress and looking at a screen, watching a movie, and letting your brain heal itself. And when that happens, you come into the gym and you can work better.
So so how would someone do it? Do they put on some goggles and watch it?
They watch a TV screen, they have headphones on, they have a teddy bear that vibrates, and they can watch Netflix. And as they watch, when their brain waves are where they're supposed to be, the picture gets brighter and bigger and looks better, the sound is better, the teddy vibrates. When their brain waves are off, it gets fuzzier and things go bad. So it starts teaching the brain biofeedback.
Is that in your facilities you have this? Or
we do it both on facility and off facility, yeah.
Really?
And
How long have you been doing that for?
Well, my partner does it predominantly for years and years.
Really?
We have a pro bono clinic at the VA hospital in Los Angeles. So it's like we're starting to do a lot of this new mind, body, cutting edge kind of stuff.
Have you been able to track to see how that's beneficial for people? Is there
It's super beneficial because it makes the training more organic. You know, I can go into a training session and, like you were just saying, and see how a person feels, and so my feedback directly relates to that feedback. So my note to the biofeedback technician is, this person is struggling with this. You know, okay, we'll work on that. The biofeedback technician's response to me is, you need to work on bilateral movement because the bilateral movement is going to help them do this or do that. So maybe I'll do some agility drills or something to kind of work synergistically with them.
So just on that one, so are you saying that certain movement drills have a connection to sort of do certain things in your brain? Like
Absolutely.
Really?
Reduce stress, reduce trauma, reinforce strength. Just fascinating stuff. And like I said, it's cutting edge right now. It's like,
so
it's
what
really
would be just an
me.
example? What, like a bilateral movement? Like, give me some example just to sort of break this down. Like, what could that type of movement specifically be doing for your?
Well, I work with a cerebral palsy patient.
Right.
And I may put a step out and make them tap, 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 tap at the top of the step. Cerebral palsy patients have some problems usually with some function of their legs where they can't get them to move properly. So at the same time that I'm training their legs to feel safe walking up a set of stairs, I'm also training their brain.
And reinforcing some kind of brain-body connection?
Absolutely.
Wow.
Yeah. So there's all kinds of things. And then, you know, like I said, going into the other side of things like electromuscular stimulation. In 20 minutes, I can get a 90-minute workout in, you know, because I put on a suit and you watch a screen and you do the moves they do, and every 4 seconds you get an impulse, and every other 4 seconds you rest, and I can stimulate muscles that I can't stimulate on the gym floor because my body, there's certain muscle fibers that just won't fire.
Right. Because that's been around for, some of those devices have been around for a long
10,
time.
12 years. In Europe, I was always looking for something that really worked well.
So how has that evolved now then? Like, what are they doing different from when, you know, you kind of had these things, even infomercials, you sat down and it was,
it's like that was caveman compared to what we're doing. And this is like aerospace compared to caveman. Because frequency and intensity has changed. So the company I work with, Catalyst, is very forward thinking. It takes all the work away from me because they know what frequency they want in a workout. The movements are already set, and the only thing I'm really affecting at all is the intensity, and the movement. So that I'm coaching my client The only thing I have to worry about is watching my clients' movement and correcting them, and talking to them about, do you feel it here? Do you feel it there? So while the suit is stimulating you, I can say, let's say your goal was to do a lower body workout today, and say, how do your legs feel? How do your quads feel? Are they tired? Are they starting to get tired? Are they getting stronger? Do you feel weaker? Do you feel one side more than the other? And then I can adjust the suit according to what kind of result I want.
So for example, if someone's got like back injuries, are you saying that if you tried to put somebody to do a particular exercise, or standing on one leg or whatever, that sometimes you still can't quite hit or engage those muscles?
Correct.
And by using this, it allows you to sort of pinpoint and activate certain things
Yes.
that are difficult, right?
Electronically. So you've got to think about proprioception. So it's kind of primitive, but it's no different in animals. If an animal breaks a leg, we'll say if a dog breaks a leg and you put a cast on that leg, when you take the cast off, the dog will still hold that leg up and won't use it. So often you'll find vets will put a wrap on the other leg to force the dog to use that leg, because you have to force proprioception. Well, EMS is a whole new world, because now I don't have to force those muscles to fire. I can cudgel them to fire through electrical stimulation, and therefore, believe me, I'm old school, so when I first tried it, I was like, does this really work? But the truth is, when I got out of the suit, there were areas that I think I'm really strong in, and I got sore, which meant that I'm firing muscle fibers that I think in some of my better body parts I'm not firing.
Yeah.
So
I had it with I went to an event and someone did it around. I had back issues for quite a while. I had like 3 or 4 minutes on my abdominals, and apparently something wasn't firing correctly, causing my back injury, and it just got rid of it like instantly.
Yeah,
and I had this kind of weird pain thing here when it was going on, and he said, yeah, there's something going on there. And it obviously wasn't. I thought I was pretty decent, it worked out, but clearly I wasn't.
Yeah, it's really interesting. So this is a whole new world. And then I use things like blood flow restriction cuffs
Yeah, I was
to
going to ask
minimize
you
the
about
workout.
how are you incorporating that?
Well, there's a company named Be Strong that's kind of interesting. They've kind of taken the old school. If anybody knows old school blood flow restriction, it was basically a rubber band that you, like a tourniquet almost, that you tied around it. And that's kind of the primitive method. Their method is scientific, and they've developed a method where they're little pillows that pump up with a sphygmometer. So you can actually see exactly how many, you can fine tune exactly like 300 mH or whatever you want it to be every single time. But the interesting thing about the little pillows is there's spaces between the pillows, so you don't completely restrict blood flow. So you partially restrict blood flow, but the partial restriction is what makes it better, because you get enough blood flow there to be able to work hard through the cuff. And so it's brilliant. So I've taken people that have had back surgery. They're not able to load their spine, but I can put blood flow restriction cuffs on them and have them do air squats, and they don't lose any circumference in their quads. It's maybe 3, 4, 5 months before they can actually squat, but it's 3, 4, the minute the stitches are out, they can start doing air squats with blood flow restriction cuffs. So if you take that to an injury level, like as some of my pro athletes and that, before they're even out of rehab, I'm already like getting them to get muscle responses through blood flow restriction. So it's brilliant.
So what do you see? What in your mind? You're very close to this, and certainly looking at the future of training and with your facilities, bringing in a lot of this new technology. Where do you think the fitness space, training studios are going to be in the next sort of 5 to 10 years? What do you think some of the changes that are likely to happen that you're considering and thinking about how to integrate those?
Wow, I think lucky for the people that are coming along in the next 10 to 20 years, because there's so much new technology that we're able to do based on having chips that don't need to be cooled, and so we can make such little devices that do such amazing things. I think what you're going to see is a lot like I always say it like this, they took the old looking Mustang, and they put it in with new engine and new technology, and it was very popular. I think that's where you're going to see fitness going. You're going to see the old school integrated with this new technology, and it's going to be really amazing. There's a company called Oxfit that's making a machine where it has pressure plates in it. So every time you lift, it'll tell you if you're leaning too much to the right or too much to the left. There's all these crazy, beautiful technologies that are coming out that'll just help you minimize your workout time because you increase your efficiency. Right. And I think that's where the integration is. I think with COVID, I didn't like the remote training because I felt I'm older, and so I like the interpersonal relationship, but also I felt like I couldn't get that three-dimensional, like look at the body and feel and instinct. And when you're training someone, you hear the breathing and you know where they're at. And I think now with the onset of technology, a lot of the little minute things that maybe distracted me from my client before will be taken care of by a computer. And I'll be able to focus on the client and what they need. And it'll also tell me when it's time to recover, when it's time to do foam rolling, when it's time to do, and so my error level will be much a smaller window.
Yeah. I was at CES last week in Vegas, and some of the sensor technology that's out there from phones, cameras, sensors is amazing what they can now pick up that they weren't able to do before.
Yeah. And that's where fitness is going. I mean, if you can find a device that tells you when you're near fatigue, to be on that edge. I mean, with all my athletes, one of the things is, you're trying to be on a razor's edge all the time. It's like I'm always between total exhaustion and hitting that place where if you don't get to that last 20%, you're not getting the results you need. So I think technology will help us know when that person's where they need to be.
So where can people find details about you, your facilities?
You can always Instagram me at bbose. You can also look up exchange.fit is my website. That's my gym. You'll find that we have new school and old school. We have an outdoor section that we kind of fondly referred to as Venice Beach. Okay. It's in Santa Monica, but still.
Is it opposite the Gold's Gym or close to the old Gold's Gym?
We're not very far from the old Gold's Gym. We're on Santa Monica Boulevard in Berkeley, which is probably a couple miles away. But we've done the same thing. We've got old school boxers in there. We've got MMA fighters in there. We've got machines in there. We've got functional movement stuff. We've got water-based machines. We've got the EMS suits. We just have a playground in there, and it's kind of where I'm going.
There.
Yeah, definitely. We'll have some fun.
Yeah. Okay. Well, thank you very much. Appreciate your time. Thank you. Thank you for listening to this episode. If you've got any value from it whatsoever, then please do us a favor, like, subscribe, tell somebody, and that will help us to be able to continue to do more of these and help you escape your own personal limits. Thanks for listening.